Most Bigfoot stories start with a rumor. This one started with a drone, a dying battery, and a scream no human should ever hear. The man behind the footage was Aaron Klein, a 32-year-old wildlife survey contractor based out of Oregon. The kind of guy who didn't scare easily. He tracked mountain lions, camped out in storms, and spent more nights alone in the woods than most people spend in their own beds. His job was simple: map elk movement for a forestry project. He flew drones almost every day, logged the data, submitted the reports, and got paid. Nothing about his work was supernatural until it was that morning. The Cascades were covered in fog thick enough to choke the treetops. Aaron launched his drone anyway. The path below was quiet. Too quiet. Even the birds seemed muted. He pushed the drone deeper over the ridge, following a narrow deer trail when the feed suddenly lagged, then sharpened again. That was when he saw movement. Something was running, fast. At first, he thought it was a bear. But bears don't sprint upright, and they absolutely don't move like a shadow with muscles. The thing barreled through the underbrush, breaking branches thicker than his wrist. Then he realized something else was in front of it. Something smaller. Something screaming. The audio cracked as a high-pitched, desperate cry cut through the feed. It didn't sound like any animal Aaron recognized. The larger creature lunged forward again, and for the first time, the drone camera caught the shape clearly. A towering figure, shaggy but not messy, with shoulders wider than a doorway and arms that swung with lethal precision. Its strides were too long, too deliberate for a wild animal. Its head was shaped like a human's, but the eyes, even through low-resolution footage, burned with intelligence. Aaron whispered to himself without realizing it. No way, that's Bigfoot. He'd always laugh at the legends. Hunters in the area told stories over beer, but Aaron was a science first, facts only type. Yet there it was, running, chasing something. And whatever it was after was alive, terrified, and fast. He pushed the drone lower for a better angle. The drone battery hit 14%, then 13%. Warning beeps echoed through his controller. But he didn't pull back. The chase continued until the smaller creature darted across a fallen log. Thin, hunched, moving on all fours like a child trying to run without falling. The Bigfoot leapt the log effortlessly, closing the distance. The drone feed shook. A branch clipped the camera. The image blurred, then stabilized again. The smaller creature turned its head. Aaron froze. It had a face. Not human, not animal. A mix of both. Sunken eyes, short snout, hairless skin around its cheeks, and a mouth that looked permanently pulled open in fear. It was young, maybe even a juvenile of something, but not Bigfoot, something else. And Bigfoot was hunting it. Then, without warning, the big creature stopped. It turned directly toward the drone, toward Aaron. Even from hundreds of feet away, its stare felt intentional, as if it knew exactly what the drone was, as if it recognized it as a threat. The creature roared, a deep, vibrating sound that rattled the drone's microphone into static. Aaron stumbled backward, almost tripping over his pack. The drone battery hit 6%. The feed warped. Then the Bigfoot charged the camera, sprinting toward it with terrifying speed. The drone shot upward automatically to avoid collision, but the creature leaped, its hand actually brushing the bottom of the drone frame. The screen went white. Signal lost. And with that, the most insane footage Aaron had ever captured vanished into static. Or at least, that's what he thought. 3 minutes later, the drone reconnected. Not high in the air, but lying sideways on the forest floor, camera cracked, still recording. Something was breathing near it. Slow, heavy, close. The last thing the drone recorded before shutting off was a shadow leaning over it, examining it, and then a second shadow, smaller, limping, hiding behind a tree. 2 creatures, one hunting, one hiding, and a man who suddenly realized he had stumbled into something far bigger and far more dangerous than a wildlife survey. Aaron wasn't reckless, but he also wasn't stupid. A $3,000 drone was lying somewhere deep in government-managed forest land, broadcasting footage of something that should not exist. Recovery wasn't optional, it was necessary. By the time he reached his truck, the adrenaline tremor in his hands had settled into something colder, something closer to dread. He replayed the autosave fragments on his tablet. The chase, the roar, the face of the smaller creature, the Bigfoot's eyes staring through the lens. Every frame felt wrong. But what pushed him over the edge was a timestamp. The drone hadn't crashed by accident. It had been hit. Aaron packed fast. .45 pistol on his hip. Satellite tracker. Bear spray. Emergency kit. Fresh drone batteries. And his old field knife, more for comfort than use. By noon, he was hiking in. The forest was suffocatingly still. No wind. No birds. Just the crunch of his boots and the impression that the trees were watching him. With each step, the smell changed. Pine to moss, moss to damp earth to something sour and musky. Something lived here. Not elk, not bear, something bigger. After a mile, he found the first sign that he wasn't alone. A shredded patch of bark, gouged by finger space wider than any human hand. The grooves were deep, like whatever made them wasn't clawing, but simply gripping the trunk as it pivoted its weight. Then he saw the prints. Massive, bare, human-shaped, but not human-sized. 16, maybe 17 inches long. The stride length was monstrous. Jesus, he muttered, crouching to measure one with his knife. The forest answered with silence. Another 100 yards forward and the smell hit him. Sharp, gamey, almost electric. A predator's odor. A warning. Then he saw it. The drone, half buried in ferns, propellers twisted, lens cracked clean through. Something had picked it up, turned it over, and dropped it exactly where he now stood, as if returning it. He knelt carefully and lifted it. The ground around the crash site was disturbed. Footprints, broken branches, and something else. Something smaller. The prints of the creature being chased. Smaller. Lighter. Almost childlike. But the spacing told the real story. It was running for its life. Aaron followed the tracks without meaning to. Curiosity overpowered fear. The prints led downhill into a denser cluster of pines. Sunlight vanished. The air cooled. His breath visibly fogged. Then he heard it. A whimper. Soft. Pain. Close. Aaron froze. The sound came again from behind a fallen cedar. Slow, shaky breathing, like an injured animal trying not to cry out. He stepped forward, drawing his pistol. "Hello," he called quietly. "If something's hurt, I'm not here to—" A shape shifted behind the log. Aaron raised his gun. Then he saw it, the smaller creature from the video. It was curled up, clutching its leg, covered in dirt and pine needles, about the size of a child, but built differently. Long arms, short torso, hair patchy and thin across the body, skin wrinkled and grayish, almost leathery. Its chest rose and fell rapidly, and its eyes, large, dark, intelligent, locked onto Aaron. It wasn't an animal, and it wasn't a threat. It was terrified. The creature tried to stand, but collapsed with a guttural yelp. Its knee bent the wrong way, dislocated or broken. That's when Aaron noticed a long, fresh scratch down its side. Not claws. Something more like a strike. The Bigfoot hadn't been hunting. It had been punishing. Before Aaron could process that, a branch snapped behind him. Close. Heavy. Deliberate. Every muscle in his body turned to stone. The creature behind the log let out a tiny, trembling moan. Aaron didn't dare turn around. Not yet, but the breathing behind him was slow. Controlled. Deep enough to vibrate his ribs. Something massive was standing less than 10 feet away, watching him, judging him, deciding not whether to attack, but why he was touching the wounded young one. A shadow fell across him, blotting out what little light the canopy allowed. He turned and found himself staring up at the Bigfoot. It was even bigger than the footage showed. 8.5 feet at least, muscles layered like living stone, fur dark and matted as river-soaked wood. Its face was broad, expression unreadable but undeniably intelligent. This wasn't a beast. This was a guardian, or an executioner, and Aaron had stepped between it, and whatever it was disciplining. The pistol felt useless in his hand. Ridiculous, even. The Bigfoot leaned forward slowly, nostrils flaring as it smelled him, his sweat, his fear, the metallic tang of his pistol. Then it looked at the injured creature, then at him again, and for a moment, Aaron felt the forest itself pause, waiting for the outcome. Then the Bigfoot opened its mouth, slow, controlled, and released a low, resonant sound that vibrated through Aaron's bones. Not a roar, not a threat, a warning, one that meant, leave, now, or die. The warning hum still vibrated in Aaron's ribs when the Bigfoot shifted its stance. One step forward, soft, controlled, deadly. Aaron's instinct screamed to run, but he didn't dare move. Predators chase movement. Whatever this creature was, it stood above the food chain and above human understanding. The smaller being behind a fallen log let out a shaky sound, somewhere between a cry and a chirp. Its voice cracked, young, scared, calling out, not to Aaron, but to the Bigfoot. A plea. The Bigfoot snapped its head sharply toward the young one. A deep rumble rolled out of its chest. Disapproval, irritation, or something closer to disappointment. Then Aaron made the mistake of shifting his foot. Just a reflex. Just an inch. The Bigfoot's eyes locked onto him instantly, and its lips pulled back. Not in a snarl, but something colder. A display. A reminder that its jaw could easily crush his skull. Aaron slowly raised his hands. Pistol pointed skyward. I'm not hurting it, he whispered. I'm just trying to understand. The creature blinked. Once. Slowly. Then something subtle changed in its expression. Not softer. Bigfoot didn't do soft, but measured, calculating. This wasn't a random wild animal. It was judging intent. The Bigfoot extended one arm, slow, deliberate, and pointed at Aaron's gun. Not touching, just pointing. A command. Aaron swallowed hard. Okay, I get it. He crouched, placed the pistol on the ground, and slid it back with the toe of his boot. The Bigfoot's gaze followed the weapon until it stopped moving. Only then did the creature shift again, lowering its huge body slightly, posture less aggressive but still towering and dominant. Then something unexpected happened. The Bigfoot stepped around Aaron, not toward him, but past him, approaching the injured smaller creature. The young one flinched hard, curling into itself, and the Bigfoot didn't roar, didn't strike, didn't drag it away. It crouched, slowly, with a grace that shouldn't belong to something so massive, and it began inspecting the injury. Aaron felt the hair on his arms rise. This wasn't a hunt. This was discipline. This was parent and child. The realization hit him like ice water. The smaller creature, it wasn't a different species. It was a juvenile Bigfoot. Younger, thinner, not yet grown into its bulk, with patchy adolescent hair and undeveloped bone structure. And the large one was its parent, maybe even its mother, though the line between male and female in these beings wasn't obvious. But the behavior was unmistakable. The young one had done something wrong, dangerously wrong, and the older one was enforcing consequences. Aaron suddenly felt very, very out of place. The Bigfoot placed one massive hand on the young one's chest, covering half its torso, then produced a low, stern grunt that reverberated with disappointment. The young one responded with a string of soft, high-pitched chirps. Apologies, maybe. Then the Bigfoot looked at Aaron again. This time differently. Not hostile, not warning, but curious, as if realizing. This human intervened. This human didn't shoot. This human tried to help. The forest went quiet. Then the Bigfoot made a sound that chilled Aaron to the bone. 2 deep clicks followed by a short grunt, a signal, a call, and from somewhere deeper in the woods, something answered, a second Bigfoot, low, echoing through the trees. Aaron's pulse jumped. Okay, that's new. The large Bigfoot turned slightly, positioning itself between Aaron and the injured juvenile. The message was clear. I'm grateful, but don't get closer. Not yet. Then everything shifted in an instant. A sharp crack cut through the forest. Not a branch. Not a footstep. A gunshot, echoing from far downhill. The Bigfoot's head snapped toward the sound. The juvenile whimpered. Aaron's blood ran cold. Gunshots out here meant one of 3 things. A hunter, a poacher, or someone who wasn't supposed to be here at all. The Bigfoot growled, deep, furious, protective, Another shot followed, closer. The older creature rose to its full height, fur bristling, a wall of muscle and instinct. Then it did something Aaron would replay in his mind for the rest of his life. It reached out and pulled Aaron back, shielding him with one massive forearm. Not attacking, not threatening, protecting. The Bigfoot knew something about the shooters that Aaron did not. And whatever was coming, it was far more dangerous than the creatures in front of him. The forest swallowed the last echo of the gunshot, leaving behind a silence so sharp it felt like pressure on Aaron's eardrums. The Bigfoot remained perfectly still, unnaturally still for something so massive. Every muscle locked, posture tense, body angled between Aaron the juvenile and the direction of the shots. Then it sniffed the air. A low, nearly inaudible growl rumbled through its chest. Not fear, recognition. Aaron's instincts kicked in. Who fires multiple rounds in a restricted sector of a state forest? Not locals, not legal hunters. He whispered, "Those men aren't here for me, are they?" The Bigfoot didn't answer, but its reaction said everything. Another crack, closer this time, but not a gunshot. A radio click. Aaron froze. Voices drifted in through the trees. Low, controlled, tactical. North slope clear. Thermal picked up something large moving east. Stay sharp. Juvenile readings confirmed. Authorization for capture. Live specimen preferred. Aaron's blood ran cold. These weren't hunters. These weren't hikers. These were operators. Professional. Equipped. Coordinated. And they were talking about the juvenile Bigfoot. The Bigfoot beside Aaron straightened, towering tall enough to brush the lower branches with its shoulders. Its breathing deepened, jaw tight, eyes narrowing with a fury that could topple mountains. It wasn't going to run. It wasn't going to hide. It was preparing to defend its young. To the death. Aaron crouched instinctively, whispering sharply, "You can't fight them like this. There's more than one." The creature didn't acknowledge him. The juvenile whimpered again, trying to pull itself upright, but collapsing with a sharp cry. That sound carried through the forest like a flare. The radios crackled again, excited. Audio confirmation. Direction 015. Close. 200 meters. They were triangulating its location. Fast. Aaron leaned in. "Hey, listen to me. They're tracking sound. They're tracking heat. You stay here, you die. Both of you." The Bigfoot turned its head slightly. Not fully. Just enough to show it heard him. But it wasn't convinced. And time was running out. Leaves rustled. Branches shifted. The subtle rhythm of human footwork grew closer. 2 sets, maybe 3. These men knew how to move. No snapping sticks. No sloppy breathing. This was a trained team. Then Aaron finally saw them through the trees. Camouflage. Rifles fitted with suppressors. Thermal goggles mounted up. Chest rigs. No insignias. A covert unit. Private, not government. Working off book. The lead operator raised a fist. Silent signal. They halted like ghosts. Then he whispered into his mic. "Target close. 12 meters. Visual any second." Aaron felt the Bigfoot tense, like a coiled steel cable. He knew what was coming. An ambush. A firefight. And bodies on the ground. Maybe his... Aaron acted before fear could freeze him. He grabbed a rock and hurled it full force into the brush to the left. It crashed through foliage with a violent snap. The operator spun instantly. Movement left. Thermal hit. Move. They advanced toward the sound, away from the Bigfoot. For 3 precious seconds, Aaron's gamble worked. Then the juvenile Bigfoot cried out again, painful, involuntary. Every rifle turned toward that direction. Contact. Target confirmed. Proceeding. Aaron whispered a curse under his breath. The Bigfoot exhaled a low, rumbling growl that vibrated the soil. It stepped forward. Not hiding. Not running. Going toward the threat. It was going to kill them. But before it took the second step, something unexpected happened. Something that terrified Aaron more than any creature ever could. A 4th operator, silent and unseen, stepped out from behind a tree only a few yards away. He wasn't carrying a rifle. He was carrying a tranq launcher. Oversized, industrial, the kind used for bears or zoo animals. He had flanked them perfectly. He had a direct line of fire on the Bigfoot, and Aaron was the only one who saw him. Without thinking, without planning, Aaron lunged. Drop it. He tackled the man into the dirt just as the dart fired, hissing past the Bigfoot's shoulder and burying itself into a tree, vapor hissing from its tip. The Bigfoot reacted instantly, an explosion of motion and muscle. It covered the distance in less than a second. Before the operator could even scream, a massive hand closed around his torso, lifting him clean off the ground. Aaron stumbled back, breath knocked out of him, watching in horror and awe as the creature held a man like a piece of cloth, effortlessly one-handed. The operator's legs kicked wildly as he tried to raise his weapon. Too late. The Bigfoot roared so loud Aaron felt his bones vibrate. Then it slammed the man sideways into a tree with earth-shattering force. The forest went silent. The remaining operators yelled commands, fanning out, aiming their rifles toward the sound. But the Bigfoot vanished in the shadows with terrifying speed, juvenile tucked under its arm. It wasn't fleeing. It was relocating, repositioning. And Aaron was now kneeling on the forest floor between two forces that should never have crossed paths. A creature protecting its blood, and men who would kill anyone to obtain it. The operators regrouped, scanning, sweeping, searching for the creature. But one of them locked eyes on Aaron instead. Weapons raised. "You!" the man barked. "Hands where I can see them. Now!" Aaron froze. He had just inserted himself into a war he didn't understand, and both sides now saw him as a threat. 3 suppressors pointed directly at Aaron's chest. 3 fingers on triggers. 3 men who looked trained to kill before asking questions. Aaron raised his hand slowly. "I didn't fire anything. That dart wasn't mine." The lead operator, tall, cold, and expressionless behind his half-raised thermal visor, closed the distance with surgical precision. A black patch on his gear caught the light. For a split second. Not military. Not police. A matte black emblem with no symbol. Only a number, 77. He wasn't from any unit Aaron recognized, which meant he wasn't supposed to exist. The operator grabbed Aaron by the vest, yanked him forward, and slammed him against a tree. "Name," he demanded. "Aaron Klein. Contract wildlife surveyor. I'm unarmed." One of the others scoffed. "Yeah, no kidding. You couldn't fight your way out of a Cub Scout meeting." The leader didn't laugh. Instead, he pressed the muzzle of his suppressed rifle to Aaron's sternum. "Why are you in our sector?" "It's state forest." "There is no your sector." "Wrong answer." The operator snapped his fingers. Another man stepped forward, pulled Aaron's drone controller from his pack, and looked at the screen. Footage played, glitchy but clear enough. Bigfoot, the chase, the roar. Their faces tightened. The leader leaned in close enough for Aaron to smell his breath. Sterile, chemical, metallic. "You saw one." It wasn't a question. Aaron held his ground. "I saw something chasing something else. I don't know what it was." The man studied him for a long, uncomfortable second, then smiled without humor. "You do know, and that makes you a liability." Before Aaron could speak, the operator pinned him harder against a tree. "Understand something," the leader said. "There is no Bigfoot. There are no sightings. There is no footage. Whatever you think you saw, you didn't. And whatever you recorded." He tossed Aaron's controller to the ground. Then he stomped on it. The screen cracked. Spark snapped. The device died. The operator grinding it under his boot muttered, "One less problem." Aaron's jaw tightened. "It auto-saves to the drone. You didn't erase anything." The leader's smile faded instantly. He turned to the third man. "Recover the unit. Full data wipe. If he interferes, shoot him." Aaron exhaled slowly. "You people aren't hunters. You're not government, either. So who the hell are you?" The leader stepped back, tilting his head like he was deciding whether the truth mattered. Then he said it. "We're with BBD." "Which is what?" "Black Badge Division." Aaron swallowed. The name meant nothing, but the tone meant everything. This wasn't a government branch. This wasn't military. This wasn't police. This was deep shadow, private, unregulated. something funded by people who answered to no one. The leader continued, "Your drone picked up one of our assets. We're here to retrieve it, alive if possible, dead if necessary." "Asset?" Aaron repeated bitterly. "You mean that juvenile?" The leader's rifle snapped upward, inches from Aaron's throat. "Stop talking." A rustle echoed deep in the forest. A heavy step. The faint cry of the young Bigfoot. Every operator turned instantly. The leader whispered into his comm. "Alpha to all units. Target moving north. Large heat signature trailing it. Possible adult." They began to move. But the leader paused beside Aaron. "If you walk out of this forest and tell anyone what you witnessed, you disappear. Understand?" Aaron nodded once, more to stay alive than from agreement. "Good. Keep your mouth shut, and you might make it home." 2 operators jogged ahead. The leader followed. Aaron, shaking off adrenaline and fury, spoke before the man disappeared into the brush. "You're not going to catch them." The man paused, glancing over his shoulder. "Why is that?" Aaron stared directly into his visor. "Because you don't understand what you're hunting." The man smirked. "We understand enough." "No," Aaron said. "You really don't." He picked up the shattered drone controller and held it up. "If that Bigfoot wanted any of us dead, we would be dead. It's protecting its young. It's not running from you. It's running for what you'll do to the kid." The leader's smirk died. Something cold, sharp, and unreadable passed over his features. He answered quietly, "We don't experiment on them." Aaron blinked. "Then what do you want?" The leader's voice lowered to a chilling whisper. "We're containing a breach." Before Aaron could ask what that meant, the forest erupted with a guttural roar. So deep, so powerful, the ground vibrated. The leader froze. "That wasn't the juvenile," one operator whispered. "That wasn't the adult," another said. The leader stepped back slowly, weapon raised, posture suddenly tense. "No," he muttered. "That wasn't one of them at all." Another roar followed, closer, brutal, primal. Something else was in the forest. Something none of them expected. Something the Bigfoot had been chasing the juvenile away from. Aaron's stomach dropped. The juvenile wasn't running from the Bigfoot earlier. It was running toward it, for protection. And now the thing it feared had found them. The roar rolled through the trees again, deeper this time, layered with a guttural vibration that didn't match any animal native to North America. It wasn't a bear. It wasn't a cougar. And it sure as hell wasn't Bigfoot. Every operator dropped into a defensive crouch instantly, weapon scanning the tree line. Aaron stepped back, pulse thundering. What the hell was that? The lead operator didn't answer. He didn't need to. The look on his face, cold, controlled fear, was enough to tell Aaron. Even Black Badge didn't know what was coming. A long, dragging inhale echoed through the forest, like something massive was sniffing the air, searching. The juvenile Bigfoot cried out softly somewhere deeper in the woods. The adult answered with a sharp, warning grunt. The forest went dead still. Then, crack! A tree snapped. Not a branch, a whole trunk. Another impact followed, closer. The operators shifted formation, forming a semicircle with overlapping fields of fire. These men were surgical, disciplined, and absolutely unprepared for what stepped through the fog. At first, Aaron saw only a silhouette. Tall, broad, uneven gait. Something wrong in the way it moved. Then it broke through the brush. Aaron's breath stopped. It looked like a Bigfoot. Same massive frame, same heavy fur, same towering build. But with one critical difference. Its flesh was wrong. Gray, torn, rotting, like something dead forced back into motion. Its right arm hung uselessly. Bone jutting, its jaw was dislocated, hanging sideways, oozing dark mucus. And its eyes, God, its eyes. 2 milky orbs drifting in different directions, unfocused but twitching violently as if listening instead of seeing. A rotting Bigfoot, a corrupted one, a diseased fragment of the species. If it was even alive, what the hell is that? Aaron whispered. The lead operator finally spoke. That's why we're here. The creature let out another roar, deeper, wet, gurgling. It wasn't calling. It was broadcasting, searching, hungry. The juvenile Bigfoot keened in panic. The adult answered with a cry Aaron had never heard before, raw, desperate, almost grieving. That's when Aaron realized something. This creature wasn't a rival Bigfoot. It wasn't a predator. It wasn't a mutant. It was infected. Something had turned it into this. Something the adult Bigfoot was trying to keep away from its young. The corrupted beast lunged, and the forest exploded. Gunfire erupted, suppressed but violent. Rounds punched into the creature's torso, but it didn't react. It didn't even flinch. It closed the distance in seconds. "Move!" the lead operator barked. One soldier wasn't fast enough. The infected Bigfoot swung its good arm, a horrifying, sweeping blow, and caught the man in the ribs. He flew 5 meters, crashing into a tree with a sickening thud. The creature didn't stop. It turned toward the man on the ground. And then, boom, a massive blur slammed into the infected beast from the side, so hard the impact shook the soil. The adult Bigfoot, the one Aaron had met, it tackled the infected creature with primal ferocity, both of them hitting the ground in a tangle of muscle, fur, and earth. The operators scattered for distance. Aaron dug behind a fallen log, breath coming in frantic bursts. The two creatures rolled, snarling and roaring, one alive and furious, the other dead and unstoppable. The infected creature clamped its jaws onto the adult's shoulder. A deep crunch echoed. The adult roared in agony and slammed its fist repeatedly into the infected one's skull. But the rotting beast didn't release its grip. Black Badge moved to form a firing line. The lead operator shouted, "Clear shot on the infected. Do not hit the live specimen." Rounds tore through the infected Bigfoot's back. Chunks of rotting flesh flew. Still it held on. The juvenile's cries echoed from the shadows, panicked, helpless. The adult Bigfoot was losing. Aaron could see it clearly. The adult was strong, but it wasn't fighting a living opponent. It was fighting something that no longer felt pain. Something that wasn't supposed to exist. Aaron jumped from cover and shouted, "Use fire." The operator spun toward him. "Fire doesn't work," the leader yelled back. "Yes, it does." Aaron insisted. "It's infected, burn it." The lead operator paused. Just a split second, but long enough to think. Then he barked, "Thermal gel, now!" One operator yanked a red canister from his belt, pulled the pin, and hurled it at the two battling giants. It burst on impact, splattering the infected creature with a chemical compound that reacted with air in a violent blaze. Fwum! The infected Bigfoot howled, a horrible, wet, enraged sound. It released the adult. It stumbled, burning, writhing, flesh melting in gory rivulets. The adult Bigfoot rolled free, chest heaving, fur singed but intact. The infected one staggered blindly, flames licking through its decayed body. Finally, with a sound somewhere between a roar and a gurgling whine, it fell, burning, twitching, still, dead for the second time. The forest filled with painful silence. Smoke curled upward through the trees. The operator stood frozen. Aaron's heartbeat pounded in his ears. The adult Bigfoot dragged itself upright, trembling with pain, eyes glowing with a mixture of grief and rage. And then, in a moment that made the hair on Aaron's neck stand up, it looked directly at the lead operator. Not at Aaron, not at the others. It focused on the man in black, and it spoke. Not English, not words. A deep, rumbling sequence of clicks and growls. Primitive, emotional, almost language. The lead operator stiffened. "Did you hear that?" Aaron asked. "Yes," the operator whispered. He stepped forward, voice low. "Do you know what it said?" Aaron shook his head. The operator swallowed. It said, "More are coming." The adult Bigfoot staggered back, clutching its wounded shoulder, chest heaving with ragged breaths. The operators kept their rifles raised, but not one of them fired. None dared provoke the creature that had just saved them from whatever that infected monster was. Smoke drifted between the trees. The charred corpse crackled faintly. Aaron stepped forward, voice low. What did you mean, more are coming? The adult Bigfoot didn't speak this time. It simply pointed deeper into the forest, the direction the juvenile had fled. The lead operator swallowed hard, jaw tightening. Move out. We need visual on the young one before the rest of those things hit this quadrant. Aaron stepped into his path. You people better start talking, because he gestured at the burning corpse, isn't just a random creature gone rabid. The operator hesitated. Then, for the first time, he actually answered Aaron plainly. You're right. It's not. He lifted his visor. Dark eyes. Tired. Hard. A man who'd seen things no one should. He continued. 2 months ago, hikers reported something sick wandering the West Ridge. We sent a small team to contain it. They found a Bigfoot, alive, but bleeding from lesions, foaming at the mouth. Eyes clouded. It attacked before they could trank it. Aaron exhaled. So it spreads? Like a disease? The operator shook his head. Not exactly. His tone dropped lower, almost reluctant. We've captured 3 infected ones. Tested them. Tested? Aaron snapped. On what? On anything we could, the man answered bluntly. He wasn't sugarcoating anything. The operator continued. It's not a virus. It's not a parasite. It's something else. Something engineered. Designed to attack muscle tissue and neural pathways. The infected lose higher cognition within hours. Pain receptors shut down. Aggression spikes. Hunger becomes uncontrollable. Engineered by who? Aaron asked. The operator gave a thin, bitter smile. You wouldn't believe me. Try me. He took a long breath. There was a private lab 10 miles east of here. Off books. Tried to enhance primate endurance and strength for military applications. They used gene editing tech nobody approved. They didn't just use apes. Aaron's stomach twisted. You're saying... Yes. The operator cut in. They used Bigfoot DNA. Because those things have adaptations we don't understand. Muscle density, bone structure, healing factors, cold resistance. And they made that... Aaron said, gesturing to the charred corpse. Not intentionally, the operator replied. One of the experimental subjects escaped about 8 months ago. It infected several others. Now it's spreading through their population. Aaron ran a hand through his hair. So you're not here to capture them. You're here to stop that thing from wiping them out. The leader hesitated, then nodded. Contain it. Eradicate the infected. And, if possible, save a few uninfected specimens. For studying. Aaron glared. For studying? You want to fix it or weaponize it? The operator didn't answer. That silence was answer enough. Before Aaron could press further, a sound cut through the trees. A faint gasp. A cry. Small. Afraid. The juvenile. The adult Bigfoot turned instantly, limping toward the sound. But before it could move more than a step, the forest answered with a second sound. A low growl. Closer. No, multiple growls. The lead operator's face went rigid. Thermal scan now. One of the operators raised a handheld device, eyes widening. Heat signatures. 8, maybe 9, closing fast. Aaron stepped back. Infected? Some, the operator said. Some are different. Before he could explain, the juvenile screamed. A terrified, shattering scream that cut straight through the forest, high and desperate. The adult Bigfoot roared in response. A furious, heartbreaking sound. A parent realizing his child was in immediate danger. It bolted into the trees, despite its injuries. Aaron sprinted after it. The operators followed, rifles raised. Branches slapped Aaron's face as he ran. Roots tore at his boots. The forest seemed to twist and shift around them. Then they broke into a clearing. Aaron froze. The juvenile Bigfoot was backed against a fallen log, trembling. Standing between it and the forest edge were 3 infected Bigfoots, twitching and staggering forward. And emerging behind them, a 4th shape, huge, worse than the others, heavily decayed, flesh sloughing off its chest in sheets. One eye missing. Massive antlers tangled in its matted fur, like it tried to shove its head through a tree and broken something inside itself. It wasn't a Bigfoot anymore. It was a mistake. The adult Bigfoot burst into the clearing, placing itself between the infected and its child, roaring with fury. The infected creatures roared back. The operator whispered behind Aaron, "Oh, God!" "They're converging." The lead operator muttered, "This isn't a hunt anymore. This is a quarantine collapse." The infected rushed forward. The adult Bigfoot braced itself for a hopeless fight, and Aaron realized they weren't going to survive this without choosing sides. The clearing erupted in chaos before anyone could breathe. The three infected Bigfoots charged first, jerking forward with broken, unnatural gaits, mouths hanging open, strings of dark fluid dripping from their teeth. The fourth one, the massive, half-decayed creature with embedded antlers, followed behind them like a living avalanche, each step shaking small pebbles loose from the ground. The juvenile whimpered, backing up until it hit the fallen log. Trapped, nowhere to go. The adult Bigfoot roared, a sound so raw and full of terror-fueled rage that it rattled Aaron's ribs. Then the battle exploded. The adult strikes first. The adult Bigfoot launched forward with a burst of power that defied its injuries. It slammed into the first infected creature with enough force to knock a 4x4 truck sideways. The infected thing skidded across the dirt, bones cracking, but it kept moving, dragging itself up again like it didn't understand damage. The adult roared in frustration. The operators joined in. "Take the flank," the lead operator barked. Black Badge fanned out with brutal efficiency, firing in controlled bursts. Suppressors whispered. Muzzles flashed. Rounds tore into infected bodies. But nothing slowed them down. One infected creature pivoted instantly toward the gunfire and charged. Its arms dragged behind it like two dead branches, until it lifted one with impossible strength and hurled a chunk of rock the size of football. Wham! It slammed into a tree inches from Aaron's head, exploding bark into his face. He ducked behind the log by instinct, heart hammering. "Headshots!" the lead operator yelled. "Go for the brain. That's where the parasite clusters." Parasite. That word struck Aaron like a punch. So it was some kind of living infection, not supernatural, not mythical. A weapon. Gone rogue. The second wave. Two more infected Bigfoots burst from the trees. Fast. Silent. Wrong. Their bodies moved in spasms. Their arms dangled at angles no joint should allow. Their eyes, God, those eyes, were milky blind, but their hearing was razor sharp. Aaron heard the juvenile scream again, a sharp, cutting sound. It crawled backward, slipping on the dirt, tiny chest heaving with panic. One infected creature snapped its head toward the sound and sprinted. "No, no, no!" Aaron yelled, sprinting forward before he could think. The juvenile wasn't going to make it. The adult was too busy fighting three infected giants at once. No one else was close enough. Aaron grabbed a broken branch, thicker than a baseball bat, and swung it with every atom of strength he had. Crack! The branch hit the infected creature square in the jaw. It didn't flinch. It didn't blink. It didn't even register pain. It simply turned its head toward Aaron. Slowly, deliberately, its teeth clacked twice. A wet, sickening sound. It lunged. Aaron stumbled backward, tripping over a root, falling hard. He lifted his arms out of instinct, trying to protect his face. Then, boom, something massive slammed into the infected creature from the side, knocking it clean off its feet. The adult Bigfoot. It had broken free from a cluster of attackers for just 1 second. One incredibly dangerous second to save Aaron. The two creatures rolled violently across the clearing. The adult roared, ripping into the infected one with a frenzy of strength and desperation. Aaron scrambled back on hands and elbows, breath tearing in his throat. The operators make their move. The lead Black Badge operator shouted, "Focus fire on the big one with the antlers. That's the alpha infection. Take it out." For operators unloaded on the massive infected brute. Bullets tore into its neck, chest, shoulders, chunks of rotted muscle flying off with each impact. But the thing kept coming. It plowed to the field of fallen branches, roaring like something that had forgotten what being alive meant. One operator wasn't fast enough. The infected alpha grabbed him by the torso, lifted him like a rag doll. Snap! Its jaws crushed his ribcage with one horrific bite. Blood sprayed the dirt in a dark arc. The alpha dropped the body and roared again, deep, gurgling, triumphant. Aaron felt his stomach twist. This wasn't just infection. It was desecration. A living organism turning intelligent creatures into blind, rabid husks. The adult is losing. The adult Bigfoot fought like a force of nature, but even it was beginning to falter. 3 infected creatures piled onto it, dragging it down. Its roars shifted from anger to pain. Blood matted its fur. Its movement slowed. Aaron could see its legs buckling, strength failing. The juvenile cried out again, helpless. The adult reached for it weakly, but another infected clawed its back, tearing out long strips of muscle. The operators were pinned under fire. The adult was being overwhelmed. The juvenile was seconds from being taken. Aaron felt something cold seep down his spine. If he didn't act now, if someone didn't, the adult would die, the juvenile would be infected, and whatever humanity had just seen would remain buried in blood and rot. He reached for the fallen operator's belt. Grabbing the red canister of thermal gel, he ripped out the pen, stood, and screamed, "Hey, come get me." Every infected head snapped in his direction. 6 blind, milky sets of eyes. 6 bodies twitching with rabid hunger. 6 creatures turning toward him. And he hurled the gel canister straight at them. It hit the ground between their feet. 3 seconds. 2. 1. Foom. A column of fire shot upward, engulfing the infected in flames. The adult Bigfoot tore free, stumbling backward. The infected creatures shrieked, high, inhuman, tortured roars. They stumbled, flailing wildly, burning alive. And for the first time, the clearing went quiet. Smoke drifted. Flames crackled. The stench of cooked rot burned Aaron's throat. The infected collapsed one by one. But the fight wasn't over. The alpha, the massive one with antlers, was still standing, still breathing, still moving. It turned its ruined face toward Aaron and charged. The alpha came at Aaron like a freight train made of bone, rot, and rage. Its footsteps weren't footsteps at all. They were impacts, each one cracking the soil beneath it. Its antler-tangled skull smashed through branches without slowing. Aaron ran. He didn't think, he just moved. His lungs burned, boots slipping on moss and loose dirt, branches clawing at his face. Behind him, the alpha roared a horrible, drowning sound, like an animal screaming underwater. The adult Bigfoot, staggering, wounded, covered in its own blood, saw what was coming. It pushed itself upright with trembling arms. But it was too far, too hurt, too slow. Aaron sprinted toward the operators. "Shoot it," he screamed. "Bring it down." The lead operator steadied his rifle. 2 others dropped to one knee. Fire. Muzzles flashed. Rounds tore into the alpha's chest and legs. Chunks of rotted flesh and bone flew off like wet clay. But it didn't stop. It didn't even slow down. The leader yelled, "Arm the heavy foam. Now!" One operator pulled a large cylindrical device from his back, a black tube with a blue trigger. He fired. A line of thick, expanding polymer foam blasted across the clearing, wrapping around the alpha's legs, chest, arms, antlers. The substance expanded in seconds, hardening into a cement-like shell. The alpha roared, thrashing violently, cracking the foam like it was dried mud. "It's breaking through," the operator shouted. Aaron skidded to a halt. The alpha was only meters away. The foam slowed it, but not enough. Not even close. The antler-crowned monster tore one leg free, then an arm, then half its torso. The ground vibrated as it ripped itself from the foam entirely, leaving chunks behind like shells of concrete. It's one remaining I fixed on Aaron, maddened, blind with hunger and possession. Aaron stepped back, 1 step, 2, and tripped on a severed infected limb. He hit the dirt. The alpha lunged. The Bigfoot intervenes. A brown blur slammed into the alpha's ribs mid-lunge. The adult Bigfoot, bleeding, staggering, half dying, threw its entire body weight into the infected titan. The collision was catastrophic. The alpha and the adult smashed into a tree, so hard the trunk snapped clean in half. Branches exploded outward. Dust and bark showered the clearing. The adult Bigfoot roared through the pain, clawing, tearing, fighting with everything it had left. The alpha snapped its jaws, biting into the adult's shoulder. Blood sprayed across the dirt. "Aim!" the lead operator yelled. "We end this now." But they couldn't get a clean shot. The two giants were locked together, writhing, rolling, tearing at each other with primal fury. Aaron's eyes darted across the ground. The fallen operator's belt, an intact thermal gel canister. One left. His hand shot out. He grabbed it, pulled the pin, and sprinted toward the two monsters. The lead operator yelled, "And oh, you idiot, get back!" Aaron ignored him. The adult Bigfoot was losing strength, its arms buckling as the alpha forced it into the dirt. Aaron closed the distance. 10 feet. 7. 5. He dove and slammed the gel canister directly onto the alpha's exposed back. The impact triggered the chemical burst instantly. Fwum! Fire erupted, blue-white, hotter than the earlier blasts. The alpha screeched, a horrifying, bubbling howl, and writhed violently as flames engulfed his decaying flesh. The adult Bigfoot rolled free, collapsing to one side, coughing and shaking. The alpha staggered upright, burning, melting, limbs failing, but still trying to reach Aaron, still trying to feed, still trying to infect. But the fire ate through its spine. Its legs buckled, its huge body toppled forward, slow at first, then fast, collapsing face first in the dirt with a seismic thud. It twitched twice, let out one last gurgling howl, then went still, completely, finally, dead. The clearing goes silent. The smoke drifted upward. The smell of burning rock clung to the air. Aaron staggered backward, chest heaving, hands trembling uncontrollably. The lead operator lowered his rifle, staring at the corpse. "That's it," he whispered. "Alpha neutralized." But Aaron wasn't looking at the corpse. He was looking at the adult Bigfoot. It lay on its side, weak, wounded, eyes dimming. The juvenile rushed from behind a fallen trunk and threw itself onto the adult's chest, crying, shaking, clinging. The adult reached up with a trembling hand, gentle, protective, and brushed the juvenile's head. The operators lowered their weapons. The forest went impossibly quiet. Aaron stepped toward the adult, eyes burning. "You saved me," he whispered. "Let's help you." But the adult wasn't looking at him. It was staring at the lead operator, not with hate, not with rage, with intention. It gestured toward the juvenile, a small, shaky motion, then toward the operators, then toward Aaron. The lead operator swallowed. "It's asking us to take the young one." Aaron froze. "What?" "No, it's its child." The operator shook his head. "No, it knows it's dying." The adult Bigfoot exhaled, a deep, rattling, final breath. The juvenile cried out in panic. Aaron took a knee beside them, throat tightening. The lead operator spoke softly. "That adult didn't just save its child. It saved us. All of us." Aaron glared at him. "So what now? You take the kid, cage it, experiment on it?" The operator looked shaken, genuinely shaken, for the first time. "No," he said quietly. "Not after this. Not after what we saw." He lowered his weapon. "We protect it. We keep it alive. And we make damn sure nothing like this outbreak ever happens again." The juvenile clung to the adult, trembling uncontrollably, and the adult Bigfoot went still, dead. A king of the forest, fallen to protect its child and a human who should never have been there. Aaron felt his throat close. The forest, for the first time since the nightmare began, felt heavy with grief. But the threat wasn't over. Not even close. The lead operator wiped soot off his visor and spoke. "We have a new problem." Aaron looked up. "What now?" "We killed the alpha," he said. "But the infected it controlled survived." Aaron's stomach dropped. "How many?" The operator took a long, slow breath. "All of them." He turned toward the dark line of trees. "And they're coming this way." The forest line ahead shifted. Branches trembled. Leaves rustled in unnatural unison. Not wind. Movement. The lead operator clutched his radio. Thermal scan. Now! The surviving tech raised the scanner, eyes widening almost instantly. Oh, hell, there's dozens. Heat signatures everywhere. Northeast circling. Aaron stepped closer. To find dozens. The tech swallowed. 40, maybe 50. Aaron's stomach dropped. That's not possible. That's an entire population. It is, the operator said grimly, because whatever that alpha was, whatever infection it carried, spread farther than we realized. Aaron looked at the juvenile, shaking, clinging to the dead adult's chest. He looked at the operators. Exhausted, wounded, low on ammo, down 2 men, shaken to their core. Then he looked toward the trees where the infected waited. Dozens of them, blind, furious, rotting giants, drawn by sound, smell, fear, heat, instinct, hunger. They were coming, and the little clearing was about to turn into a slaughter pit. The retreat, the lead operator snapped out of shock. Grab the juvenile, he barked. We're moving. West Ridge, now. No trucks that way, a soldier yelled. All our extraction gear is east. East is infected territory. The lead snapped. West leads to the old watchtower. Aaron blinked. The watchtower? That place hasn't been used in 20 years. That's exactly why it's safe, the operator shot back. Aaron hesitated, then nodded. He wasn't the one with tactical experience. Not here, not with stakes this high. The juvenile resisted as they tried to pick it up, screaming, tugging toward the adult's body. Aaron knelt in front of it. The little creature stared at him with wide, terrified eyes. Aaron placed a hand gently on its arm. I'm sorry, he said quietly, but we have to go. Your parent, they saved you. Now we have to keep you alive. Come on, please. The juvenile hesitated, breathing in short, panicked bursts. Then slowly, reluctantly, it let go of the adult's fur. Aaron scooped it into his arms, using all his strength to hold the small but dense creature. It clung to him, shaking uncontrollably. Go! The operator shouted. And they ran. The chase begins. The forest behind them erupted in roars, dozens of them overlapping in a chorus of hunger and madness. Branches snapped, trees groaned, and a tremor spread through the soil. Aaron ran harder. The juvenile's claws dug into his back and shoulder. He didn't complain. He needed it to hold on. The operators formed a moving defense line. 2 in front clearing the path, 2 on the sides watching the flanks, 1 at the rear firing short bursts to slow the swarm. The forest glowed red on the thermal scanner. They weren't outrunning anything, just delaying the inevitable. The lab revealed. As they pushed deeper west, Aaron noticed something. The trees were thinning, the soil darkening, the air thickening with a strange chemical odor. Then, through the trees, they saw something massive. A concrete wall, old, cracked, covered in moss, half collapsed. Behind it, a large structure mostly consumed by the forest. Its roof caved in, metal scaffolding twisted like vines. The dead lab. Aaron slowed, breath catching. This is it, he said. The source. The lead operator nodded grimly. Yeah, the infection started here. Show me, Aaron demanded. Show me what they did. The operator hesitated, but the infected roars were getting closer. They didn't have time to hide the truth, so he gestured for Aaron to follow. Inside the collapsed building, sunlight speared through holes in the ceiling. Cages lined the walls, some metal, some plexiglass, some broken open, some smeared with dry. Aaron's stomach twisted. Jesus, the operator spoke quietly. The scientists tried to create a forced muscle regeneration serum, something that could keep soldiers fighting longer, heal faster, but it destabilized the nervous system, made the subjects violent, insatiable, eventually non-functional as thinking beings. Aaron ran his hand along a shattered cage. This wasn't just experiments, he said. This was cruelty. The operator didn't deny it. He looked Aaron in the eye. We didn't do this. Black Badge was sent to clean it up. We've been tracking the infected for months. But you can't control something like this. It spreads, leaks, mutates. The juvenile whimpered, burying its face in Aaron's jacket. The operator's voice softened. We're trying to end this, without wiping out the entire species. Aaron looked up sharply. What do you mean, end this? The operator pointed to the far corner. A locked steel container, bright yellow hazard stripes, symbol for biohazard, and a digital lock blinking red. Aaron frowned. What's in that? The operator's voice hardened. A failsafe. Aaron didn't like that answer. What kind of failsafe? But before the operator could answer, the metal wall behind them buckled inward. Aaron spun. Something huge slammed into it. Then another, and another. Dozens of impacts. Dozens of roars. Dozens of infected Bigfoots swarming the perimeter. The lead operator yelled, "They're here!" Aaron grabbed the juvenile tighter. The juvenile screamed, clinging to him with desperate strength. The wall cracked. A hole tore open. A giant gray arm forced itself through, claws tearing metal. Then a head. A rotting, eyeless giant forced its face through the opening, mouth gaping wide. Another tore through from the left. Another from above. 3 infected creatures were breaching the lab at once. The operator shouted, "Fall back to the west tunnel." Aaron turned and froze, because behind him, at the far end of the lab, the steel failsafe container began to shake, and something inside started pounding to get out. Boom, boom, boom. Aaron's blood ran cold. What the hell is in there? The operator looked horrified. Something worse than infected. The pounding grew louder, faster, more violent, and the lock on the container flickered, then turned green. The door began to open. The lock on the steel container emitted a sharp metallic click. A hiss of decompression spilled out. Cold vapor rolled along the lab floor like fog off a frozen lake. Aaron felt the juvenile Bigfoot tense in his arms, every muscle turning rigid with primal terror. The operators backed away from the container, guns raised, breathing sharp, eyes wide. The lead operator spoke under his breath. "We're too late." Aaron swallowed. "What did they put in there?" The operator didn't answer. He couldn't, because the thing inside hit the steel door again. Boom. Metal warped outward. Bolt snapped. Boom. Another dent. Deep and perfectly shaped like the impact of a massive fist. Boom. Then the door ripped off its hinges and launched across the lab, slamming into a concrete wall with enough force to leave a crater. And out of the container stepped something even the forest seemed afraid of, the hybrid. At first glance, it resembled a Bigfoot, tall, towering, covered in dark brown-black fur. But everything past that baseline was wrong, horribly wrong. Its musculature was denser than the adult Bigfoot Aaron had seen earlier, veins thick under the skin, pulsing with a strange, iridescent glow. Its head was elongated, more angular, jaw longer, sharper, lined with teeth that could crack boulders. Its eyes were glossy black, reflective like obsidian, cold and deliberate, not blind like the infected. This one saw everything and understood it. The operator whispered, "Hybrid Model 0. Aaron choked out, "Hybrid what?" The lead operator spoke through clenched teeth. Before the infection spread, the scientists managed to splice Bigfoot DNA with something else. Something engineered. Something built to be indestructible. Aaron stared in horror. Why would anyone create that? Military application. The operator answered. A controllable apex predator unit. But it doesn't look very controlled to me. The hybrid stepped into the open space of the lab. Every movement was efficient, silent, focused, unlike the infected. It wasn't twitching or spasming. It was thinking, assessing. Its gaze swept across the room, pausing on each soldier, on Aaron, on the juvenile, on the looming infected creatures clawing through the walls. Then it opened its mouth slightly and let out a low, vibrating growl that reverberated through the steel beams. The infected creatures froze, actually stopped. Then, slowly, they turned their heads toward the hybrid. The lead operator whispered the terrifying truth. "It's calling them." The hybrid growled again, this time louder, commanding. The infected responded, roaring, charging, swarming into the destroyed lab with renewed frenzy. The hybrid's intent becomes clear. Aaron backed away, gripping the juvenile tight. What does it want? The lead operator's voice was grim. To finish the outbreak. To exterminate every Bigfoot that is infected or hybridized. Aaron's eyes widened. It sees them as competition. It sees them as genetic waste. The hybrid turned toward the small, shaking juvenile in Aaron's arms. Its head tilted, studying, measuring. Aaron felt the creature's claws dig into his shirt, its trembling intensifying. The hybrid took one step forward, then another. The fused remains of the steel container crunched under its weight. Aaron stumbled backward, straight into a row of shattered cages. The juvenile whimpered. The hybrid crouched slightly, preparing to leap. The lead operator yelled, "Move! Fall back! Now!" But it was too late. The hybrid launched itself. Not jumped, launched, with a speed that blurred its outline. Aaron braced for impact, but something huge slammed into him from behind. The lead operator. He tackled Aaron and the juvenile out of the way just as the hybrid landed where Aaron had been standing. The ground cracked. Concrete split. The hybrid slowly rose, turning its head toward them, unfazed, uninjured, unstoppable. The operator shouted, "Get to cover." But the words died in his throat because the infected creatures, all 50 of them, suddenly poured through the breaches in the walls. A tidal wave of rot and rage, snarling, clawing, stampeding toward the hybrid's command. Aaron looked for exits. There were none left. The west tunnel was collapsing, the north entrance blocked by debris, the south wall overrun by infected. The operators shouted orders. Try and form a defensive perimeter, but they were already outnumbered. The juvenile screamed, not in fear and recognition. It knew what the hybrid was. It had seen it before. The hybrid stepped forward, ignoring the hail of bullets from the soldiers. Every round sunk into its fur and simply stopped. Skin didn't break. Flesh didn't react. Even the infected parted around it like it was their alpha. And then the hybrid spoke, not in English, not in human language, but in a deep, guttural, terrifying set of clicking growls, the same that the adult Bigfoot had used earlier, but twisted, perverted, engineered. The juvenile whimpered and covered its ears. The hybrid stepped closer and repeated the phrase, more forcefully. Aaron looked at the operator. What is it saying? The operator swallowed. It's given the infected a command. What command? The operator hesitated. Kill the child. Kill the last uninfected gene line. Aaron felt his heart seize. The hybrid took another step. The infected surged. The operator screamed. Run. Aaron grabbed the juvenile and sprinted toward the west tunnel collapse, ducking under a fallen beam. The hybrid roared, a sound so powerful debris fell from the ceiling. The infected swarmed behind them, and the hybrid came last, slow, certain, unstoppable. Aaron turned back once as they entered the narrow tunnel. The hybrid looked directly at him and spoke again, low, vibrating, guttural. The lead operator paled. Aaron demanded, "What did it say?" The operator answered with a shaking voice. It said, "The child belongs to me." The narrow west tunnel swallowed them in darkness as Aaron sprinted through with the juvenile in his arms, operators close behind. The roar of the hybrid shook dust from the ceiling. The infected horde thundered after them, claws scraping concrete, bodies smashing into walls. Aaron didn't dare look back. The juvenile clung to him tightly, shaking, terrified, but quiet, instinctively understanding that noise meant death. Behind him, the lead operator shouted, "Go! Go! Don't stop!" The tunnel was decaying, old concrete, broken beams, rusting support rods jutting out like metal thorns. Half the ceiling looked ready to collapse. Aaron's breath ripped in and out of his chest. His legs burned, but adrenaline kept him moving. The juvenile let out a soft cry, clinging harder. "It's okay," Aaron whispered, lying through his teeth. "I've got you. Just hold on." The infected catch up. One of the infected creatures slammed its full weight into the tunnel wall behind them, cracking it sharply. Concrete rained down. Another infected clawed at the ceiling, dragging its rotting limbs through hanging wires. Sparks flew. "Move!" a black bad soldier yelled. Aaron pushed harder, stumbling over debris, vision tunneling. But the hybrid wasn't rushing. Its footsteps were slower, heavier, calculated, like it knew the tunnel was a trap for anyone but itself. "Why isn't it charging?" Aaron panted. The lead operator answered. "Because it doesn't need to. The hybrid is shepherding the infected toward us." Aaron's stomach twisted. "Driving us somewhere?" The operator nodded. "Yes, it wants us in a choke point." "And then what?" "Then it takes a child." Aaron tightened his grip around the juvenile. "That's not happening. Not while I'm breathing." The operator shot him a sharp look, voice low. "Then don't stop breathing." The collapse. A deep groan echoed overhead. The tunnel ceiling sagged, cracking, splintering, shedding chunks of concrete. The tech soldier yelled, "It's collapsing. We have to get out now." They sprinted the last 30 yards toward a faint light ahead, an exit grate shattered years ago. Freedom. Aaron hit the opening first, sliding through the broken frame into open forest air. The juvenile rolled with him, landing safely in the ferns. 2 soldiers followed, then the lead operator, but the last 2 weren't fast enough. The ceiling gave out. A tidal wave of dirt, rock, steel, and concrete came crashing down behind them. Boom! It hit the infected first, crushing dozens instantly. Their roars cut off like someone flipped a switch. Aaron turned back just in time to see a dust cloud billowing outward. But one thing burned through the haze. A silhouette, tall, still, unmoving. The hybrid. It hadn't been crushed. It had braced itself under the falling debris and was now stepping out of the ruins, unfazed. Aaron's blood iced over. "That thing survived that?" The operator answered shakily. "Hybrid Model 0 doesn't die. That's the problem." The clearing. They stumbled out into a clearing Aaron hadn't seen before. Tall pines, thick brush, a slope leading downward. The juvenile clung to Aaron's chest, eyes locked on the ruined tunnel. The hybrid slowly emerged fully into the daylight, shaking dust off, cracking its neck, letting out a low, cold growl. It was faster now, focused, its target unmistakable. "Form up," the lead operator barked. "This is where we take our stand." Aaron spun toward him, furious. "You can't kill that thing. You saw the bullets do nothing." "We're not killing it," the operator said. "We're delaying it until extraction arrives." "Extraction?" Aaron snapped. "You called evac?" The operator nodded once. 10 minutes. Helicopter inbound. Aaron looked at the hybrid again. Its run began slowly, measured, calculating. Then its pace increased. A blur of power and predatory intent. It leaped over the piles of rubble, sprinting across the clearing at impossible speed. The remaining soldiers opened fire. Rounds struck its chest, arms, jaw, but every bullet simply flattened or embedded in its hide. The creature roared in annoyance, not pain, annoyance, a warning. The soldiers switched to heavy foam, launching flares of expanding polymer at its legs. The foam splattered across its hips and knees. The hybrid slowed, not because it was restrained, but because it wanted to evaluate the tactic. Then it tore the foam away with one hand, like peeling off tape. "Contact!" a soldier yelled. "It's coming in hot." The hybrid lunged and knocked one soldier 20 feet through the air. He hit a tree, hard, didn't get back up. Another soldier fired point blank. The hybrid ripped the rifle from his hands and used it to strike him across the chest. He folded instantly. Aaron backed up, shielding the juvenile with his body. The lead operator shouted, "Fall back. Keep the child moving. Don't let it get close." Aaron turned to run. The hybrid cuts them off. The hybrid moved faster than physics allowed. One moment it was 50 feet away. The next, it landed directly in front of Aaron, blocking the exit, blocking the forest, blocking everything. The operator screamed, "Aaron, move!" Aaron couldn't. The hybrid towered over him, breathing in slow, deliberate draws, studying the child, studying him. Then it spoke again, low, cold, definitive. Aaron felt the juvenile's claws clamp around his neck. It understood the words, and it was terrified. The operator shouted. What did it say? Aaron's voice shook as he answered. It said, "Give me the air." The hybrid loomed over Aaron, its shadow swallowing him whole. Its obsidian eyes reflected no emotion, no hatred, no rage, only purpose. Its voice came again, low and final. "Give me the air." The juvenile Bigfoot whimpered, a small, broken sound that cut straight into Aaron's spine. It buried its face against Aaron's chest, shaking violently. Aaron understood something in that moment. This wasn't about survival. This wasn't about infection. This wasn't about the lab's failed experiment. This was political. Inside the Bigfoot species itself. The hybrid wasn't just a monster. It was a coup, a takeover, a purge. The juvenile wasn't simply a child. It was royalty, the last pure-blood offspring of a powerful lineage, the only one left with traits strong enough to resist infection. And the hybrid wanted to end that line forever. Aaron stared up at the towering abomination. "You're not getting him," he said, voice hoarse but steady. The hybrid tilted its head slowly, curious, like a scientist examining an insect. Then it lunged. The final fight. Aaron dove sideways with the juvenile, rolling across the dirt. The hybrid's claws sank into the ground where he had been lying, cleaving a trench through soil and rock. The lead operator shouted, "Distract it. Keep moving." Two remaining soldiers opened fire in a coordinated burst, not to kill, but to draw its attention. The hybrid flicked its arm. One soldier went flying into a tree, neck snapping on impact. The other ducked, firing foam at its legs. But the hybrid caught him by the throat mid-spray and crushed his windpipe like a paper cup. The lead operator cursed under his breath. "We're out of time." He lunged for his belt, ripping off the last explosive, a thermal gel charge. "Aaron," he shouted, "when I throw this, run." Aaron nodded, holding the juvenile tight. The operator pulled the pin, but before he could throw it, the hybrid was on him, faster than a blink. It grabbed the operator's arm, the one holding the charge, and twisted. There was a wet pop, and the man screamed as his forearm snapped backwards. The hybrid ripped the explosive from his hand and hurled him aside like scrap metal. Aaron watched in horror as the hybrid examined the thermal charge, sniffing it, evaluating it, learning it. Its intelligence was terrifying. Then it dropped the charge to the ground and stepped forward. Aaron backed away, stumbling, shielding the juvenile. The hybrid extended one arm. A demand. One last time. "Give me the air." Aaron spit blood onto the dirt. "Come take him." The hybrid didn't hesitate. It lunged, and everything happened at once. The operator's sacrifice. The lead operator, bleeding, arm useless, threw himself between Aaron and the hybrid. He didn't have a weapon. He didn't have a plan. Just a broken thermal charge in his remaining hand. He smashed it against the hybrid's chest and screamed, "Run." The hybrid grabbed him immediately, lifting him off the ground like a doll. The charge detonated. Fwum. Blue-white flame engulfed both of them. The hybrid howled in fury. Not pain, but wrath. The operator was incinerated almost instantly, but the blast burned deeply into the hybrid's chest. For the first time, its skin cracked. For the first time, it stumbled. For the first time, it bled. A thick, black, chemical ooze spilled onto ground, sizzling. Aaron grabbed the juvenile and ran. The final chase. The hybrid roared, shaking the forest. It tore through flames, its body charred but unbroken. It sprinted after Aaron, limping but fast as hell. Trees tore out of the ground as it barreled through the underbrush. Aaron tripped, crashing onto his side. The juvenile rolled away, scrambling to its feet, crying, terrified. The hybrid leapt forward, and a shadow crashed into it from the side. A surviving infected creature, barely alive, half crushed from the tunnel collapse, latched onto the hybrid's leg. The hybrid snarled, kicking it away. But that brief distraction, that single heartbeat, was enough, because Aaron, scrambling backward, spotted something glinting in the dirt, the lead operator's sidearm. He grabbed it, but he didn't aim at the hybrid. He aimed at the thermal canister, still leaking flames on the ground. The hybrid charged again. Aaron fired. Crack! The bullet struck the canister. It erupted. A pillar of flame exploded upward, engulfing the hybrid from below, burning it from inside out, melting its engineered organs, boiling the parasite, searing muscle from bone. The hybrid staggered, shrieked, thrashed. Aaron grabbed the juvenile and shielded it with his body. The hybrid convulsed violently, roaring in rage and unwillingness. And finally, it collapsed, a burning, collapsing mountain of engineered nightmares falling onto forest floor, smoking, melting dead. For good. The end of the nightmare. The forest went silent. No roars. No footsteps. No infected. Just wind through the trees and the crackle of burning hybrid flesh. The juvenile whimpered softly, touching Aaron's arm. Aaron placed a hand on its head. "You're safe," he whispered. "We made it. You're safe now." The creature pressed its forehead to his chest, grieving its parent but alive because of him. Minutes later, the thump-thump-thump of helicopter blades echoed overhead. Black badge extraction. Aaron stood slowly, still holding the juvenile. 3 agents in clean suits approached, cautious, respectful. Their commander stepped forward. "Where's the hybrid?" Aaron pointed behind him. "Dead." The commander surveyed the carnage. The burn tightened the infected corpses, a collapsed tunnel. Then he nodded. "You saved the air and terminated Model Zero. That changes things." Aaron glared. "You're not taking him." The commander held up a hand. "No cages. No labs." He motioned to 2 agents. "We relocate him. Deep wilderness. Secure, protected habitat. No more experiments. Your footage, your testimony, they stay quiet. But the child lived free." Aaron studied him for several long seconds. Then he nodded. The commander lowered his voice. "He'll remember you, you know. Your scent. Your voice. Your face. To them, that means family." Aaron swallowed hard. The juvenile clung to his shirt. And then, reluctantly, he handed the small Bigfoot to the handlers. It reached out for him, crying softly. Aaron touched its hand. "I'll see you again," he whispered. "Not as a threat, not as prey, just as friends." The juvenile blinked, understanding in its eyes. Then it was carried into the helicopter. The rotor spun. The craft lifted off, vanishing into the endless green of the Cascades. Epilogue 3 weeks later. Aaron sat at his small cabin desk, staring at the cracked remains of his drone camera. A knock came at the door. A parcel, unmarked, no return address. Inside, a single flash drive and a handwritten note. "The forest remembers you, and so does the air." Aaron plugged in the drive. A single video file played. The juvenile Bigfoot, older, stronger, standing tall beside a waterfall, looked directly into the camera. It raised its hand, just like Aaron had taught it. A wave. The video ended. Aaron leaned back, exhaling shakily. Bigfoot was real. The infection was contained. The hybrid was dead. But something deeper had changed. The forest had accepted him. And somewhere out there, a young Bigfoot was growing into the rightful heir of a kingdom the world still pretended didn't exist.